On a quiet evening, an ordinary drive home turned into a nightmare for Elena Carter, the fearless director of a major FBI branch. As she drove down a dimly lit road, eager to unwind after a long day, flashing red and blue lights suddenly filled her rearview mirror. The wailing siren behind her signaled her to pull over. Confused, she complied, knowing full well she had obeyed every traffic law. Elena pulled her sleek black SUV to the side of the road, turning on her headlights as a precaution, a habit she had developed as a black woman in America. She knew that while the law was meant to protect, those entrusted with upholding it did not always act justly. A tall, stern-faced white police officer, Mark Davidson, approached her vehicle. His expression was unreadable, but carried a hint of suspicion. He rapped on her window, and Elena calmly rolled it down, maintaining her composure. "Good evening, officer. How can I help you?" she asked, her voice firm yet courteous. "License and registration," Davidson demanded, his gaze unwavering. Elena frowned slightly. "Of course, but may I ask why I was pulled over?" Davidson shrugged. "You looked suspicious." "Routine check." Elena's eyes stayed locked on his, unwavering. "Suspicious? Could you clarify what made me suspicious?" The officer's patience wore thin. "Don't argue with me. Just hand over your papers." Elena reached for her documents, but held on to them before passing them over. "Officer, I am well aware of the law, and I have the right to ask for a valid reason for this stop." Davidson's expression darkened. He slammed his hand on the car door, causing Elena's pulse to quicken. "I enforce the law. You don't get to question me." The air grew thick with tension. Other vehicles passed by, their headlights flashing momentarily on the roadside confrontation, yet no one stopped. Elena took a deep breath, willing herself to remain calm. "Officer," she continued evenly, "I have complied with your stop, but I will not submit to an unlawful demand." Her composure seemed to infuriate Davidson even further. He narrowed his eyes and shone his flashlight directly into her face. "Are you carrying anything illegal? Drugs? Weapons? People like you are always hiding something." Elena's stomach tightened, but she didn't let it show. "No, officer. And I strongly suggest you refrain from making such unfounded accusations." Davidson smirked. "I don't need a reason to doubt you. I don't need to respect you. I need to do my job. Now, step out of the car." Elena didn't budge. "I will not exit my vehicle without cause. I do not feel safe." Davidson's hand moved to his holster. "Get out now, or I will use force." Elena knew the situation had escalated dangerously. She had trained countless FBI agents to stay calm in high-pressure moments, but she never imagined she would be on the receiving end of such blatant abuse of power. She slowly moved her hand toward the dashboard-mounted phone. "I am recording this interaction," she said steadily. "Everything you are doing is being documented." Davidson scoffed. "You think I care about a camera?" Without hesitation, he drew his gun and aimed it directly at Elena. "Now get out." Despite the suffocating tension, Elena remained motionless, her hands gripping the wheel. "Officer, you are violating the law. I demand you lower your weapon immediately." Davidson's eyes burned with fury. "This isn't a negotiation. If you don't step out, I will make you." At that moment, Elena made her move. Carefully, she reached for her phone and dialed a number. "This is Elena Carter, director of the FBI. I have been unlawfully detained and am currently being held at gunpoint by Officer Mark Davidson. I am requesting immediate intervention." Davidson's confidence wavered, but he kept his gun raised. Moments later, sirens blared in the distance. Another police car arrived, and from it emerged Police Chief Thomas Reynolds. His face turned pale when he recognized the woman in the driver's seat. "Davidson, lower your weapon now." Reynolds barked. Davidson hesitated, then reluctantly obeyed, his face draining of color. "Sir," she refused to cooperate. "She?" Reynolds cut him off. "You're telling me you pulled a gun on the FBI director?" His voice was heavy with disbelief and anger. Elena stepped out of the car, standing tall and composed. "Officer Davidson's actions were an abuse of power, and I have the footage to prove it." Reynolds turned back to his subordinate. "You're suspended, effective immediately. Hand over your weapon." Davidson's hands shook as he unbuckled his holster and handed over his gun. The weight of his actions finally hit him. Elena exhaled deeply, looking at Reynolds. This isn't just about me. If this can happen to me, an FBI director, imagine what happens to those who don't have the means to defend themselves. Reynolds nodded solemnly. I promise you, this will be thoroughly investigated. In the following weeks, the video evidence of the incident went public. Davidson was arrested and charged with abuse of power, racial profiling, and endangering the life of a citizen. The courtroom was packed when the verdict was read. 4 years in prison. As the gavel fell, the room erupted in applause. But for Elena, the real victory was the conversation that followed. The case became a catalyst for police reform, pushing departments across the country to revisit their training, ethics, and accountability policies. Standing before reporters, Elena declared, "This isn't about revenge. This is about responsibility. No one is above the law, not even those meant to enforce it." The key lessons from this story include: accountability matters. Those in power must be held accountable for their actions, as unchecked authority can lead to abuses of power. The importance of recording interactions. Elena's quick thinking in recording the encounter played a crucial role in ensuring justice was served. Documentation and evidence are powerful tools in seeking fairness. Systemic change is necessary. This story highlights the need for ongoing reform in law enforcement, emphasizing ethics, proper training, and the elimination of racial profiling. Courage in the face of injustice, standing up against oppression, even in high-risk situations, is a step toward meaningful change. No one is above the law, regardless of position. Every individual must be held to the same legal standards to maintain justice and fairness in society. Meaningful message. This story serves as a reminder that injustice can happen to anyone, and only through vigilance, courage, and accountability can real change be achieved. It sheds light on the ongoing struggle against discrimination and the responsibility of law enforcement to protect, not oppress. Personal perspective. This case is not just about one officer's wrongdoing, but about a much larger issue: systemic injustice. If someone as powerful as an FBI director can be mistreated, imagine the struggles faced by ordinary citizens. It is a call to action for awareness, legal reform, and a commitment to fairness in law enforcement. Call to action. If you believe in the power of storytelling to inspire change, make sure to like this video, share it, and subscribe to Story Precious. By following our channel, you'll receive more impactful stories that challenge injustice and promote meaningful discussions. Together, we can make a difference.